Hey everybody, this is Doug with Artfully Rogue, and welcome back to the channel. So if you look behind me, my Rhino sculpture is finished, and I just finished installing it. Now, all around the Valley Metroplex, once a year, there's an artist initiative called IN FLUX. And what it does is it allows local Arizona artists to create site-specific art all over the Metroplex. I'm here in Peoria at the library. They chose me for this location, and all the other artists got in different locations, say in Chandler or in Tempe or Scottsdale or Glendale or Phoenix. I was able to toss out several ideas for the Peoria library, and we ended up going with the Rhino reading a book. And so this is how I built that Rhino and got it here to install it. I took that idea and basically drew it out on my table and started to use a 1/4-inch round steel rod and bend that into the shape of a rhinoceros that I had drawn on the table here. Anytime I start a project very similar to this, I want some type of skeleton, something that's going to be the basis for the shape. Now, I've never done a rhinoceros before. This is the very first time. So I went online and I was looking at all kinds of pictures that would give me a better idea about what features a rhinoceros has that really kind of stand out. And as you can see here, I'm doing the belly part of the rhino. This is going to be a little bit more obvious. You have the horns for the rhino, and what I've noticed on rhinos is they actually have a large upper lip that kind of hangs over the bottom lip. And the eyes sit pretty far down on the head. When you start to break down what a rhino looks like, they're just very bizarre creatures. I mean, definitely prehistoric. But the distance between the eyes and the ears and where the horn sits, it all looked very weird. And at this point right now, I'm starting to skin the structure that I had created, and I couldn't get it out of my mind that this was looking more and more like a hippo. And so I was dealing with a little bit of frustration here in the sense I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing until I got most of it skinned like this, and then it started to kind of take place in my head and settle into the fact that this was in fact turning into a rhino. Now, I took these 6-inch spheres because they have already been shaped, and I utilized these as the rhinoceros toes. Rhinos have 3 toes on each foot. And because this is a bit of a whimsical fantasy type project, my rhino is going to be holding a book. Well, rhinos don't have opposable thumbs. There's no way for them to physically hold a book. But I'm not really concerned about that. I'm looking at it more from the artistic, creative standpoint. Very rarely do you see a rhino sitting up on its rump reading a book in the Serengeti. Now that I'm starting to skin the part of the head, I'm using 20 gauge sheet steel here that I have used in my press to create that texture. There's another video that I actually created while I was making the rhino that shows you how I did the texture on the skin, and I'll put a link to that here in this video. So as you can see, I'm going to start to draw the eyeballs on. I want to place the nose and the eyes. This for me is when it really started to take a personality on. It's kind of hard to describe. When you get engrossed in a project and you kind of just let your mind run free, you forget about time, you forget about everything that's going on around you, and you just really kind of what they call get into the flow of things. And that's exactly what was happening here. Once I started to work on the eye and started to put the top eyelid on, and then I started working on the bottom eyelid, and even when I went back and put a second layer of the eyelid on, with a little bit of a fold into the eye, it really became a little bit more three-dimensional. So yeah, this part for me was my favorite part of doing the rhino, was creating the eyes. For me, the eyes say it all. It just, I don't know, it gave it personality. Now here's that upper part of the eyelid I'm talking about. It brought it out a little bit further. And then by taking a little bit of a chisel and pounding it in and creating that shape a little bit better, again, it just gives it a little bit more dimension, and a little bit more depth, and a little bit more personality. I would say This project took me, if I had to say hours-wise, somewhere in the range of 80 to 100 hours. I worked on it nonstop once I got started onto it, and I really didn't want to stop. As some of you may know, I have my own business. I create a lot of custom metal work. The sculpture side of my business is often secondary, although I'd love for it to become the primary form of income. Right now, the sculpture part of this business is really just, when I get to do this, I love having fun with it. And yeah, so we created the horn for the Rhino. You'll see later on, I actually put a bend in that horn so it wasn't so straight up and down. The ears, I didn't want them to be just plain sheet metal. I wanted to give them some depth. So again, I'm taking some 1/4 inch round steel bar here and I'm welding it onto the edge of the ear. And you'll see here where I just kind of jump ahead in a little bit. And we'll skin the other side as this will, so it thickens up the ear. So I bend the last portions of the steel rod around the, I guess you call the interior of the ear. That way, this will give some depth, some thickness to the ear itself. Rhino ears are kind of strange looking. They're very big compared to the eyes and the head and whatnot. And in doing research with the Rhino, rhinos can't see very well, but they can hear extremely well. And so if you're ever in the bush and you see a rhino, just stop moving, because as long as you don't move, they really can't see you. But if you make a noise, they're going to find you and they're going to run you over. And it's about this point here that I realized that the ear alone kind of starts to take on the shape of a prickly pear cactus leaf. So I made 2 of these, obviously, because you got 2 rhino ears, and polished it up, cleaned it up, definitely gave it some thickness. I don't want kids or anybody climbing on it and cutting themselves, so yeah, boom, we have an ear. So now I'm working on the tail. It really kind of started looking more like a squid when you're working at it, you know, by yourself and outside of the realm of the rhinoceros. And now I'm polishing everything up. There are certain areas where you're welding and you want to clean up the welds, you want to clean up the transitions between each piece of sheet metal. You don't want people to rub their hands across that and actually get cut or have any problems if they do touch it. Now this rhino is sitting up on a pedestal, so people would have to climb up on top of that pedestal to actually get to it. But hey, there's kids, it's a library. I do not put that past them. Now, a buddy of mine at the very last minute was able to help me get these letters printed. You got to check out his channel. It's Interactive Realm. His name is Jason. If you're ever looking for decals or signs, this guy's a rock star. He really does some amazing Disney replica signs. So if you're looking for custom signs or lettering, look up Interactive Realm. His name is Jason. Tell him that Doug sent you over there, and man, he'll help you. He did all this lettering for me as well. I didn't realize this is super time consuming. As I'm peeling off the backing of this, and then you peel off the top layer, the little letters want to come off, and they don't want to come off where they're supposed to. So this took a little bit of time, but it's the actual text from the Where the Wild Things Are book. So now I called out all the stops here. I have my son who's in the truck, his girlfriend who's on the ground to my right, and my brother-in-law who's on the ground to my left. And we are bringing the Rhino out to the library. I haven't gotten the video with the type of paint that I use, but I'll put another link to another video here with the style paint and how I used it in other projects. It's a transparent paint called, it's coming from a company, House of Color. They refer to it as candy apple, not the color, but just the process, I guess. Now we've got it positioned, and we're going to go ahead and start drilling the anchors into the platform itself so we can mount this thing and it'll stay down and nobody will walk off with this 300-pound rhinoceros. But the process is done, and I am super happy that I was selected for this. This will now stay at the library for the period of 1 year. And after that, who knows? If you're interested, let me know, and we can get you on the list, and you can put it in front of your workspace or in your home. You're going to be more than welcome to jump on the list if you'd like to buy it.
the Peoria Library will have first dibs on buying that.
Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. It's greatly appreciated. I'm gonna get back to the shop now because I got tons of work to get going. If you haven't already subscribed, do so now. And if you'd like to make some comments, go ahead and put those down at the bottom. We'll see you in the next video.